Hey, what's going on, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. No matter where you're coming from, hope you all are doing well. You know what? Like, it just doesn't get old. Sometimes I come to the desk and I'm like, all right, time to get into it, time to teach, and then that song comes on and you feel it. I don't know, it does something, gets me going. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Hope you're doing well. I know we did a raise on Tuesday, so I'm glad that you're still here with us on a Thursday because it can get a little rough in the beginning, but proud of every single one of you that come back time and time again. When HTML hit you, you showed back up. When CSS came at you, you showed back up. When JavaScript got weird and looked a little bit like math, you showed back up. That's how you get to the promised land, folks. You keep pushing. We're going to push. We're going to review. We're going to push. We're going to review. So we pushed a lot on Tuesday. I know we pushed a lot on Tuesday, but now we're going to come back. We're going to get our active recall in, our spaced repetition in. We're going to carry these boats. We're going to carry these logs, and we're going to get there together. Alrighty, folks. Glad to see you're here.
We don't get.
Thank you, Mecro.
We go get.
Glad to see you're here. Glad to see you're doing well. We got some fun tonight. We're gonna go back to some basic functions. And then we're going to see arrays all over again. From the beginning, we're going to cover each topic again, but this time we're going to do slightly different examples. We're going to see it from slightly different angles. We're going to take our time. If you got questions, we're going to answer those questions. I know when we get to arrays, it's the point where there's a lot of substitution. There's a lot of this equals that, and it can get a little tough. The reading can get a little tough. But guess what? We're fucking tough. So we're going to get through it. Alrighty, folks. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. Let's jump into it. You know how I like to do it. We're always going to start off with some questions. You got some questions. I got some answers. The question of the day, and this comes from the Office episode, the Hillary Swank episode. Arrays, hot or not? Throw it in chat for me, please. Hot or not? Arrays, please. Hot or not? Hot meaning they're feeling okay. Not meaning not so much. Got a lot of hots. A lot of spicies. So hot. Fetch. Should we say they're fetch? Nice. Tepid. Lukewarm. A lot of hots though. Okay, I see you. A few knots here and there. That's all right. That's what tonight's for. A few knots. That's okay. It's good to feel a few knots here and there. Means tonight's gonna be value to a lot of folks. Beautiful. All right, we got some hot, some knots. Beautiful. Fetch isn't going to happen. I'm going to make it happen. Alrighty, folks. Questions. You got questions, I got answers. Always like to give folks a few seconds to get in here. So if you got some questions, I got some answers. Are they really called curly brackets? There's a couple different names for them. Figure braces, figure brackets, curly braces. People call them all different things. I like to call them curly braces because it's a dope thing to do, and I do dope things. Is Domino's sponsoring the stream? Who's the sponsor? Well, the sponsor we announced on Tuesday is Microsoft coming for our Git and GitHub class. So Microsoft showing out for our Git and GitHub class. If you don't know, Microsoft bought Git and GitHub. Bought GitHub. And so they're sponsoring our class. That class will be on the 31st. So end of this month is our Git class, and GitHub is sponsoring it. Microsoft's coming through. Lots of swag. We're doing laptops. We're doing it big. If you've never been here for a sponsored stream before, we go out. So it's going to be fun. We're going to learn a lot, but we're also going to have a lot of fun, a lot of raffles, and a lot of cool stuff. Will Bill Gates give us a tour of his magic toaster? I mean, we can ask, right? What is your opinion on DevOps? Is it possible for us to move into a DevOps position? It's a whole other beast. What we do as software engineers, we write the code. Everything from when we're done writing code to it going live on servers staying up, making it easy for developers to get their code live, and all the tools and systems behind that. That's DevOps. So it's a whole kind of different beast. It's a whole other skill set you would have to learn if you wanted to go into that area. A really great streamer here on Twitch is Mastermind, and they do a lot of more DevOpsy stuff. So if you're ever interested in that kind of thing, I would definitely check out some of their streams. They actually did a boot camp, but they were like in person, and they streamed the in-person DevOps boot camp, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Is there a career that combines product management with software engineering? Yeah, engineering management, or just technical project management. So there are technical PMs that maybe aren't slinging code every day, but understand enough to be able to advocate for their team effectively. Yeah. Oh, they're starting a new cohort, Muck? All right, I'll have to find out some details so I can share it with folks. Can we do some fundamental code wars together? We will. So Blah did an amazing article on getting code wars set up and then how to do a code wars. So I shared their article with the last message on the Follow Materials channel, and then I'm going to share their next, their how to do it video. They actually did one live on the video, so I'll share that after class, and then we'll do some code wars together live as well. We're gonna make a little game of it, which I think will be fun. Yeah. Alrighty, folks, let's get into it. A lot of review tonight. I really want to make sure we can take our time and go into detail, spend a lot of time making the nuns angry, doing some diagrams, trying to make arrays sink in a little bit better, make a little bit more sense. We got lots of other cool examples to get through, lots of fingers on keyboard practice tonight. But please ask questions as we go through this. Now, if you haven't already, please go ahead and check in, ! Check in here in and Different said, Leon, I'm the fullest stack. I got DevOps, backend, front end, DBs, ML, AI, blockchain, UI, UX, mobile, desktop. That's why you had to go Indifferent. We know why. So if you haven't already, go ahead and check in for me, please. It really does help folks find us. We might have scared a few folks away on Tuesday, so let them know that we're running back arrays tonight, and so they can come back and get the help that they need for things to click a little bit more. So if you haven't already, please, I really appreciate it. Check in. I also, the review class is up on YouTube. So our super review is back up on YouTube. I fixed the weird error that was there. So if you want to watch the super review, it is on YouTube. You can do ! YouTube and watch it. It's 9 good hours. I don't know. No, it'll be cool if you do watch it, please give it a like, just so that more folks can find it. I think it could be a really good entry for folks that want to try out 100 devs. And so go ahead, if you haven't already, please give it a like when you watch it, and just leave it running. If you got to go do errands or something, just let it run. Let YouTube think that you're still there, let it run. That way it gets served out to more folks. It's a 9-hour class. You can let it run. It's all right. Leave it in the background. You need instead of listening to lo-fi, right? Instead of listening to lo-fi, you can just put that 9 hours in the background. Let my my sweet sounds kind of enable you to get work done. Alrighty. There was a band that did that. I don't actually know if I can actually ask you to do that. There was a band that made a. I forget what the name of the band was, but they made an album that was just nothing. There was no noise. It was a full album, but there was no sound. And they asked all of their fans to just play it at night, right? And play it at night so that they would go up the Spotify rankings. I always thought that was a really cool idea. Leon trying to make that YouTube money. It's not monetized, folks. The YouTube is not monetized. No, I just really want people to find it. And so that's why I asked you to like, just so that folks can see it. I really do think it's a good way for folks into 100 devs. And so, yeah. They're called Wolfpack. That's the name of the band. That's funny. Yeah. They made 20K before Spotify stopped them. That's funny. Alrighty. So, this one's a tough one. I need a little bit more time. So, I have the best news I could ever share It's the best news I could ever share. It's something that I am immensely excited for, immensely proud of. It is the biggest announcement that 100 Devs has ever had. And so I really wanted to do it tonight. And I can't do it tonight because I had some unfortunate stuff happen yesterday. So I need a little bit more time, and we're going to do it on Tuesday. But I also I've been debating for a while to say like what happened, but I'm going to say it because I want somebody, if they're here, to understand something, and then we're going to move on. So my wife is also an educator, and last night one of their students was unfortunately, and this is a trigger warning. If you the next few seconds could be some bad news, so I'm just going to give folks 10 seconds to mute me. I'll say it quick, and then I'll turn it off. So unfortunately, one of my wife's students was shot and killed, and so we just spent the night together, and just my time that I would have spent to prepare for today, that didn't happen. So spent the night with my wife, just being together, and unfortunately, that's not the first time we've had to do that. And so I know this learning to code stuff, it's fun. I know that it can mean a better life for you and your family. But for a lot of people, for a lot of my past students, it's a way out. It's a way out to a life that can be very, very dangerous. And so if you are here and you need that way out, I got you. We'll make it happen. You let me know that that's what you need. I got you. And so I wanted to put that out there because somebody might need to hear that tonight. And I hope that you take it to heart. I hope that you put in the work. The hustle that you use can be a hustle that can help you on the way out. And so I wanted to put that out there, and give me a little bit more time. On Tuesday, we'll do it right. We'll do it big. But need a little bit more time. A little more time. All right. Also, we had a lot of other kind of things that I was going to announce today too. So we still have some fancy stuff to announce on Tuesday as well. Zeus, thank you for the gifted subs. I appreciate you. The fancy stuff, we have of course, best, funniest portfolio, and sorry, not the best, the funniest portfolio and the funnest project. We'll announce those on Tuesday as well, and we'll announce the color from Tuesday as well. So a lot of stuff coming up on Tuesday. Need a little bit more time. And as always, if you want to be fancy, please make clips. The clips have been great. All right, the I appreciate the gifted subs, but not now, please. It's not the reason I share those things. And so I appreciate the love, I appreciate your support, but not right now. Yeah, thank you. So the way you get the fancy color, right? The way you get the fancy color, the yellow, right? The golden yellow is if you make the best clip. Now the best clip, right? It can be a fun clip, or it can be an educational clip. We're picking both. So one person that got the golden color so far picked out a funny one, and then one person that did an educational clip got it as well. So best clips get a fancy golden color. If you want to stand out on Discord, that's your way. Cool. I always share a Slido after each class for you to post the clips in. Yeah. Tony, I got you. Alrighty. Now, on Tuesday, we picked it up. On Tuesday, it got a little spicy. Some things are starting to come due. And the hard part right now is, yes, the code, but it's also the time management, right? It's the stuff that you have to do each week. The networking is becoming a thing. The coding challenges are becoming a thing. The reading is getting a little bit more intense, and a little bit more is going to be asked of you as we start to progress through the boot camp, right? And so you have the paid client as well. And so as the JavaScript gets a little bit harder, and as you have the networking, as you have the coding challenges, as you have the paid client, that all starts to ramp up a little bit, right? It all starts to get a little bit more tough. And so I just want to make sure that we say it, that as it turns up, it's okay. We understand that you're going to be, it takes a little while to get up to speed. Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? It's a marathon, not a sprint. If you need to take a little bit more time to get your networking up to speed, that's okay. If you need to take a little bit more time to get the daily challenges into your daily routine, that's okay. If you need the time to focus on the reading, that's okay. At this point in our adventure, you have to start figuring out how you're going to manage your days and what you need to invest more or less in. That's okay. And as we start to kind of keep going, it does get easier. It does. The first couple of weeks is definitely a shock to the system to know you have to be balancing all these things. But that's the beauty of a boot camp. It's one shot in your life that you put in this effort, and it can pay dividends for the rest of your life. The time you put into the networking will help you get a job. The time you put into your client will help you get a job. The time you put into the coding challenges will help you get a job. And so as things turn up, just know that you're not alone. Just know that there's a huge community here that wants to support you, and we're all on the same roller coaster together. We're all going to get there together, but don't be afraid to just hang on sometimes, right? Sometimes you just got to hang on. You might not be enjoying the roller coaster, but you're on it, right? You're just going to be Beyonce. You're going to hold on, and we're all going to get there together. Cool. I want to do a live portfolio and resume review. And so folks are starting to work on their portfolios. We haven't fully done our resumes yet, but people are starting to work on them. And so I want to do a class where we go through a bunch of them live. So if you want the opportunity for me to do yours live, like share it live, like I'm going to roast you just a little bit, like not a lot, just a little bit of roast, right? A little bit of heat, right? So if you want your portfolio and resume for me to give you a critique, because what really happens is the portfolios and resumes I review, the same stuff comes up over and over again. Everyone makes the same mistakes out the gate. And so I really want to do this class just so I can show you the common mistakes that folks make and how to correct them and how to make your portfolio and your resumes pass that wonderful sniff test, right? And so go ahead, if you know you want somebody to take a look at it and you might want to do it live, fill out that form for me and we'll do quite a few of them together. So that's a class that'll be coming up, not super soon, but in the near future, just as we get closer to doing more resume and job prep stuff. Is there a deadline? No, I would say fill it out like this week if you want the chance. I'm just going to pick a few. We're only going to do like 5 to 10 of them. So if you want to be in that raffle to figure out who it is, go ahead and fill out that form for me. All right. As we kind of move into, will we have LinkedIn classes? We will. Yeah, we will have classes on LinkedIn. We'll have classes on your resume, all that professional development stuff. We have like actual dedicated class time for. Do we need to remove personal info? I would. I'm not going to like edit anything. So whatever you share with me, I'm going to share live. So if you want to blank stuff out or things like that, definitely take the time to do that. Cool. We're also going to do LinkedIn reviews, all that fun stuff, but that's a little bit later. Right now, our goal is kind of coding and networking and coding challenges. As we get a little bit further along, we'll switch gears and worry about that professional development stuff pretty heavily. All right. Another thing you're going to start noticing is that in class, things are going to be getting a little bit harder, a little bit more spicy if you're not doing the reading. I'm going to assume that if I give you a week to get reading done, that you've done it. Now, it doesn't mean that we won't review the important concepts, doesn't mean that we won't make things hopefully make a little bit more sense, but I'm going to start giving videos and reading that I expect to be done within that week so that we can go a little bit faster during class. We're at the point where we need to speed up just a little bit to get to the end at the right time. And so we're going to kind of pick up the pace a little bit, and there are going to be a lot of things that you're going to have to research on your own. And there'll be some things that I'm going to ask you. I'm going to say, hey, we're going to be using these methods, but I'm not going to give you the resources for the methods. Or I'm going to give you, hey, we're going to be covering this topic, but I might not give you the resource for that topic. And the reason I'm doing that is because I need you to start getting comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable on the job, right? Once you're on the job, there often won't be tutorials. There often won't be videos or even books or anything that will help you with that stack. And you have to get good at researching things on your own. So know that there will start to be a few gaps as we pick up the pace a little bit. That's intended for you to fill in those gaps, to do the research, to look things up. Even some of the practice problems we'll be doing during class. I feel a little bit like a jerk when I have to say it, but some of them are going to be like, hey, here's this thing we've never heard of. And in that moment, you have to go to the MDN, or you have to look. I just need you to develop that muscle, right? So that when you're on the job, you don't panic. You've been used to it. We've been doing that for weeks, months, right? So know that that's coming. The first couple times I'll be really obvious with it. I'll really point it out, but know that that's where we got to pick up that pace a little bit. Yeah. Alrighty. Welcome to the Trough of Sorrow. I feel like most of us are here. Let's do a poll real quick. I just want to know. Let me start a poll here. New poll. Are you in the trough? Yes or no? All right, we're gonna do a 1-minute poll here. Go ahead and say yes or no for me, please. Totally fucked is not a yes or no, but I see you. All right. We're at about 75% of folks are in the trough of sorrow, and about 25% of you are not. That's the right place. That to me is like a good spot to be. And I think it's really important for everyone to see those results, right? To see that result. Beautiful. This is over 1,000 people took this poll. Over 1,000 people took this poll. 75% of you are in the trough of sorrow, and 25% of you are not. Don't feel bad for being exactly where you should be. This is from Blah. Me and Blah were talking Wednesday, and this came up, and I really thought it was so important that we had to share it in class. So this is from Blah. You shouldn't feel bad for being exactly where you should be. You should be in the trough of sorrow by now.
We don't get
right?
that.
You should be in the muck. You should be in the goo. You should be looking around and being like, I don't know what the fuck Leon is talking about. I don't understand. He's drawing all these arrows, but I don't know what those arrows mean. I don't know what that arrow from that I, like, I'm here, but I don't know what I stands for, right? Like you should be in the trough of sorrow. And you're going to see that 25% feel like they're not. And it's really, really difficult for when you're in the trough of sorrow, where you should be, to see folks that might not, they're like, you're at the bottom in the muck, and there are still some people coming down the roller coaster, and they're having fun. They're yelling, they're wooing, they got their Beyonce hair flowing, right? They're doing the most, right? You're in the muck, but you're seeing folks still coming down the hill, right? They're going to crash into the trough too. Don't let their fun get you twisted, right? They're going to crash into the trough of sorrow too. You're there. They're coming down behind you. Don't get it twisted. Because here's what happens. When we start doing daily coding challenges, Some folks do the most. They can't help themselves. They're flexosauruses, right? They just have to flex, right? They do a couple code wars. They're up in the Hamilton channel. They can't help themselves. It's okay. If this is you, that's okay. Like don't let me block your shine, right? But we got a lot of flexosauruses. About 25% of us are flexosauruses, right? And so what you have to realize is that if you're in the trough, it really sucks to look around and see folks still wooing at the top of the hill, right? And so what I really need you to understand is that you shouldn't feel bad for being exactly where you should be, right? If arrays aren't making sense, that's okay. If JavaScript's not clicking, that's okay. If the coding challenges look like gibberish, that's okay. If you are still catching up, that's okay. You should be in the trough. Things should be mucky. You should be doubting yourself. That's where you should be. So don't let the flexosauruses coming down the hill, like, it looks fun until they crash along with you, right? And so be careful. We've assigned a lot of stuff that's going to make you maybe not feel the best. And that's okay. You're going to get there to where you're going to start rocking the coding challenges. You're going to get the client. You're going to do those things, but keep pushing through the trough of sorrow. You're where you should be, and you shouldn't feel bad about that. And for the flexors, that's okay. Do you, right? Just be mindful that we're trying to do this as a community, right? Be mindful that folks might not be totally understanding the coding challenges yet. And so if you flex, also teach. Let's try that. If you're gonna flex, teach as well, right? If you're gonna show off the cool thing you did on the code wars, help somebody else understand what you just did. Right? It's okay to be a flexosaurus. Just we got to pull folks along with us too. Cool. All right. Thank you. Cool. Let's talk about some programming, folks. Talk about some programming. We're going to get, I'm a Stockosaurus. That's all right. Coding gal, nah. That's not a good one. Nope, that's not you. Trophosaurus. There we go. We're all Trophosauruses. All Trophosauruses. We're all going to go through the trough at some point. Today, you, tomorrow, me. It comes and goes. All right, let's talk about some programming, folks. A computer will do what you tell it to do. We know this through and through. Computer will do what you tell it to do. A program is a set of instructions that you write to tell a computer what to do. And programming is the task of writing those instructions in a language that the computer can understand. The language that we write, that we understand, that the computer can eventually understand, which is broken down, is JavaScript. JavaScript has a very specific syntax, and that syntax might be what's driving us through the trough of sorrow recently, right? That syntax is tricky. Once we start adding arrays and the square brackets and the equals this and the substitution, that can get a little wild. And so tonight we're going to practice that syntax more. We're going to get more hands-on keyboard practice. We're going to spend more time with examples so that syntax isn't as scary. JavaScript syntax, when we learn a new topic, sometimes it's pretty scary. Mushroom said, Leon trying to sneak maths on us. No, I ain't trying to sneak maths on you. There's just some substitution. A lot of development, a lot of programming is like, all right, this equals that. I'm not going to say that's quick maths, but it's something that our brains have to click over to. And sometimes it takes a couple classes for your brain to be able to click over to be able to follow the substitution pattern. Yeah. Cool. So far we talked about variables, our data buckets, and we talked about how we can declare and assign variables. So here I've declared a variable called age, and I've assigned it the value of 25. We talked about conditionals as another member of the big four. Conditions, if something is true, we do what's inside the curly braces. If that if is not true, we check the else if. If the else if is not true, the else automatically runs. Yeah. Rufiato said, hold on, they spent their their highlight message. A customer told me to build an e-commerce website for them. I told them a price that they brought up how someone who has more experience is charging them less. For the sake of next time, how would you handle this? Tell them to go. Like, I love that. I love when clients tell me that they have somebody else that'll do it for less money. Here's my favorite answer. Whenever a client says, oh, why, like so-and-so is going to do it for cheaper. The thing different goes says, fuck you, pay me. That's on the list, but it's not what I say. I go, oh, really? Like I do really? Like that much cheaper? Can I have their name and number, please? I got a lot of projects that if they're going to do it for that price, I need their info. Can I have their name and phone number, please? And then, I'm dead serious. Like, can I have their name and phone number? And because that's a wild price. And then, no, I'm serious. Can you give me that name and phone number? Thank you. I really appreciate you. I got a backlog of projects. I could really use their help. But if they don't work out, you know you can come back to me. But good luck. I can't compete with that price. Have fun. You know why? Because a week later, they call me back. A week later, they call me back. It's almost always capped. They always call back. And if they really do have someone that's going to do it for that much cheaper, then let them do it. Let them go and do it at that price. Well, I'm not gonna like, hey, you do you. We don't get got, we go get. Exactly. Spicy Leon is here. All right, we have our conditionals. We check to see if the if is true. If not, we check the else if. We can have as many else ifs as we want, and we can have an else if we choose to. We don't have to, but if we do, it automatically runs. Beautiful. Chat, what's the danger between assignment and comparison? Danger between assignment and comparison. If we're still catching up, would you recommend coming to a live class? I recommend catching up and then joining live, but watch the super review and then maybe check out a live class or two. So yeah, come watch a super review and then join a live class. Live class is fun. Yeah, 1 equal sign versus 3 equal signs. 1 equal sign, you're assigning a variable. 2 equal signs or 3 equal signs, you're doing comparison. And we always have to be careful of doing assignment inside our parentheses because it'll be what type of value. What type of value could it be? If we do assignment inside of the parentheses, what do we wind up with? Yeah, we can wind up with something that is truthy. It'll evaluate as truthy, which is pretty weird. So that's something to keep in mind if you accidentally do the assignment. Remember, we can have multiple conditions. You can check to see if your name is Leon and if your status is ballin', because if it is, you get a wink at the camera. Beautiful. You can also do or, right? You can check to see if the day is Saturday or the day is Sunday, because if it is Saturday or Sunday, then it is still the weekend. Beautiful. Functions. Chat, what are functions? Tell me what functions are. We're powering through this review so we can get to the arrays. Sets of instructions. Exactly. Sets of instructions. Sets of instructions. Marty Cats, thank you for the gifted subs. Scam VR, thank you for the gifted subs. I appreciate y'all for being here. Thank you so much. Alrighty. They are indeed sets of instructions. They're meant to be reusable, right? Meant to be reusable. The idea, we write functions so we don't have to rewrite the same logic over and over and over again. We just do a function, and then we can reuse that function. We can call it over and over again. Cool. Here we go. We have a function, the normal syntax. Chat. What is this? What did I just circle? What do we call it? I got you. Somebody squiggling out. They thought I was going one way. I swear if I deked them, I went a different way. Yeah, it's a function declaration. Beautiful. We're taking that set of instructions and putting it into memory. How about this down here? How about that down there? What is this down here? Beautiful. Yes, it's a function call. We're trying to make that function above run. Function call. Here is the basic syntax of a function. We have our function call. When we call mom, we call to exactly Norb. We call to argue, so we pass in hello, which is our argument. All right, it's our argument. Our argument falls into our, what is word, chat? What is word? What's the word? Word. Yes, we're on fire tonight. It's a parameter, exactly. I feel good. I hope you all feel good. Yeah, the parameter. Beautiful. Loops. What are loops? Chat, what are loops? What do they enable us to do? Yeah, they enable us to do something over and over again, to do something in a repeated manner, to repeat some action again and again. Exactly. Cool. So loops enable us to repeat an action some number of times. We know that there are three main types of loops in JavaScript: for, while, do while. We saw for and while so far. We haven't seen a do while yet. We'll see that next week. And we also saw some other loops on Tuesday. What was another kind of loop that we saw on Tuesday? Yeah, for each, exactly. Cool. And these different types of loops just really kind of determine when to start and stop your loops. So here's the traditional for loop. We set up our counter. We say when to stop counting. And we say how much we increment each loop. And we go ahead and we can console log whatever that counter is each time. So this would print 1, 2, 3, 4. We would add 1 to 4. We're at 5. Is 5 less than 5? No, it's equal. It's not less than. And so we would stop and only see 1 through 4 printed to the console. All right. We also have a while loop. We set up our counter outside of the parentheses, and we're going to say is 0 less than 5. That is true. We'd wind up printing 0, and then we would increment inside of the loop. If we forgot the increment, we could run into some trouble. If we got our end condition wrong, we could run into some trouble running into a what? Yes, infinite loop. Loops go brr. Exactly. Wonderful. Let's go ahead and do some practice problems. Let's see these big four in action: the variables, the conditionals, the functions, and the loop. So if you're new around here and you need the starter code, join our Discord and agree to the rules. You'll see a follow along materials channel. In that channel will be a zip file today. Unzip it and then open that code in VS Code, and that's what we're going to be working on together. So today's code is all Bachelor related, but it's always the spin-offs. Some of them you might not have even heard of, like In Paradise or After Paradise, Winter Games, Summer Games. I don't know how long you've been part of Bachelor Nation, but you're going to learn today. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at In Paradise. You're also going to notice that there's a lot of other stuff here, and that the slides go for way longer than we're going to cover. We're just covering arrays tonight. We're seeing more practice, but these slides go into objects, and all the code I give you comes with objects as well. So what do you think you should do this weekend or before Tuesday? All right, something in my eye. You don't have, whoa. I forgot we got the Flexosauruses in here. The Flexosauruses were like, do it by Friday midnight, right? No. Just read ahead. Read ahead a little bit. Look at the examples. I don't need you to do them. Just read ahead a little bit. Familiarize yourself with the big topics. Research anything that seems not in the reading that we covered, right? Just I forgot. Some of you are like, it'll be done by tonight. No, I don't need you to finish it tonight. I just want you to look ahead a little bit, see what's coming for Tuesday and Thursday. See the code we're going to work on Tuesday and Thursday. That way it's not your first time. We're forgot. We're good. We're good. All right, let's take a look at this. We got some variable practice, some function practice, some conditional practice, and a loop. I'm going to put, let's put 4 minutes on the clock here and have at it. 4 minutes, and then we'll go over it together. You got this. Believe in you. We'll go over it together, and then we'll probably take our break. This is the review in paradise. Review in paradise. Always in the slides. You always need the slides. It's exclamation point slides if you need them, but review in paradise is the one we're working on. You got 3 minutes, 30 seconds. What are some of the most, I always forget. I always mess it up. What's your favorite sandwich? I don't know. I don't know if I have it. I don't know. I don't really eat sandwiches. Is a glizzy a sandwich? Like a vegan one? Is that a sandwich? Not sure. I grew up eating hoagies. I really do like hoagies, but I don't really eat meat or cheese anymore. Put some music on for you while you're working. What's your opinion on pineapple on pizza? You do you. Juice, you got automated, but I have heard of them. Yes. Tony Luke has vegan hoagies now. What? That's wild. It's all about Phil's on 24th Street, though. I'm at 4 years now, maybe a little bit longer. But I haven't really eaten red meat or pork since I was 9. It's Phillips, but I call it Phil's. Coffee Mouse Gaming added 2 minutes to the timer, folks. So when this hits a minute, we're gonna bump it to 3. We'll bump this up to 3 as soon as it hits 1. Coffee Mouse out here. All right, there we go. 3 minutes on the timer for the 2 minutes that we're at it. Strategic, the VODs are always immediately available, and then everything gets uploaded to YouTube probably like a couple days later, day or two later. Do you take supplements? I take like a multivitamin now, but and vitamin D, but the vitamin D is more for my bipolar disorder and not so much like I'm missing it in my diet. I just need way more. D5A, congrats on the offer. That's huge. Tack, that's all right. You just gotta give yourself a little bit more time. Holden A with the done. Tack, have you done your repetition? That's what's really helped sync this in. Yeah. Hey, Nicolo, that's pretty dope. A lot of folks done. Those extra 2 minutes came in clutch. Congrats on the folks finishing. Hey, Lexington game. Just landed a small client for a little JavaScript widget. That's dope. Congrats. Galaxy, hope everything's okay. When does it usually start to get better? It depends on how much time you have. Not everyone has the same privilege of time, and so some folks are able to get a little bit more repetition in. It comes a little bit earlier. The best thing you can do is just ask a lot of questions. Jump on Discord, have someone help walk through things with you. We have so many folks now that help out on Discord. If you see folks in a voice channel, don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm struggling with this thing, can you show me? We have so many folks that are kind of starting to ramp up more streaming and hopefully joining the stream team. Mine's been streaming a lot. Minewolf's been streaming a lot, which is pretty helpful for a lot of folks. So there's always help to be had. You just gotta help. You gotta ask for it. There was a really beautiful article I was reading last night, or the night before, that was talking about like tutoring and why there are like less geniuses now, and how effective tutoring can be for someone learning. And it just reminded me of Discord and seeing so many folks giving up time and energy to help others learn and walking through stuff that gets stuck on. And so please make sure you ask for help. Jump into those voice channels. Don't be afraid to ask for the help that you need. Alrighty, folks, come on back. Let's go through this. Got the last one. Dope. Hey. All right, let's go through these together. And then we will probably take our break. Alrighty. Declare a variable, reassign it to your favorite food, alert the value. So let's go ahead and say let fav food equal Domino's, but I can't let this stay Domino's. We have to reassign it so I don't get in trouble. So we're going to say fav food is Domino's, and then we have to reassign it to your favorite food. All right. So fav food equals pho. We'll say vegan pho. There we go. Vegan pho. Oh man, there's this vegan ramen spot near me. It's a problem. Alrighty, declare a variable, reassign it to your favorite food, alert the value. So we're going to head and alert favorite food. Beautiful. Declare a variable, assign it a string, alert the second, right? Declare a variable, assign it a string, alert the second character in the string. Declare a variable, assign it a string, alert the second character. All right, so let's go ahead and do like the normal string that everyone starts off with. Hello Twitch. Beautiful. Hello Twitch. And let's alert the second character in the string. How can we alert the second character? There's a lot of things that we could do here. All right. I see some folks just saying use square brackets. Let's try that real quick. Let's try that real quick. So let's just go ahead and say alert, and we're going to alert stra. And how would I get the second, not the first? Yeah, we put in 1. Let's see if this works. If we see E, we know it worked. So let's see if this works. Let's open in the browser. All right, we got vegan pho, and then we got E. So we know it worked. We see the E that was alerted. I know it's tiny, but the E alerted, so we know that it works. And if we look, we can see that string or strings in JavaScript also kind of work like what? They also kind of work like what? Arrays, yeah, we can kind of use some similar syntax. One of the odd things about JavaScript, we'll eventually see why this is next week. Next week we'll see why these bracket notations make sense. We'll see why it works this way, but just know that like everything might be something that it's not. Let's just put that out there. Everything might be something that you don't know yet, and eventually they can all kind of wind their way together. So we'll get there. There's also something else we could have done. We could have done maybe a method. So I'm going to comment this line out. This was kind of like one you could have researched. If you used your Google Foo or you went to the MDN, you might have found a different way of doing it. What's some other ways that we might have done it? What was something else? Yeah, charat. So charat is a method that's built into JavaScript, or specifically with strings, that enables us to get characters. And so if I say charat1, I get the same thing. And what we're going to notice is that we're starting, we say 1 because we start counting at 0. The H would be 0 and the E is 1. So it doesn't matter if we're using the square bracket notation or methods that we found in our research, we're going to stick with that 1. So arrays start to play out, or the understanding of zero indexing plays out a lot in JavaScript, even when we're not dealing strictly with arrays. Cool. Functions. Create a function that takes in 3 numbers, divide the first 2 numbers and multiply the last, alert the product, and call the function. So let's go ahead and create the function. We're going to call this divide and multi. And we're going to take in 3 numbers. So we're just going to say n1, n2, and 3 as our parameters. We could call them whatever we want. We could call them robot, unicorn, chicken. It just doesn't matter. But we're just going to do n1, n2, n3. Divide the first 2 numbers, multiply the last, and alert the product. So let's go ahead and say let prod equal. I'm going to use parentheses just so that I know the order of operations here would probably be fine. It's just cleaner for me to read. So I'm going to do n1 divided by n2, and then I'm going to multiply the last. So n3. And that would give us the product, and then we're going to alert that. So alert prod. Beautiful. We could have done it all in one line, right? We could have taken this and put it inside the alert. That would have worked too. Same thing. Yeah. Why assign them and not alert straight away? Just readability. Readability. Eventually our functions might do more returning than they do alerting, right? So eventually this might be a function that we call over and over again. And so instead of alerting it, we might be returning that product, and that'll make it a little bit easier to read. Yeah. Okay, and then call it. Divide and multi, and we can pass in some numbers here. Let's do 12, 3, and 4. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and comment these other ones out just so we can see if things are working or not. So I'm going to comment both of these lines out, and then we should see, what should we expect, chat? What should we see if this works? What should we see alerted if this works? All right, we should see 16, right? Because 12 divided by 3 is 4. 4 times 4 would be 16. So let's see if this works. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to refresh, and boom, 16. Love it. This, of course, is the cast of the first Bachelors in Paradise, just in case you were wondering who these wonderful people are. Leon said, "You said no math." Well, I'm not doing the math. The computer's doing the math. Why are they so small? Because it's very hard to find photos of a lot of the Bachelor offshoots. I'm glad you asked this. This is a very important conversation. Somebody said, why are the images so small? So a lot of the earlier Bachelor like spin-offs or the like sideshows, they weren't really that like popularized, and it wasn't like a big thing on the internet yet. So it's actually relatively kind of hard to find good photos of the entire cast or even individual photos of the cast without having to sit there and splice the actual show. Even some of the shows and the special episodes are hard to find online. And so hopefully one day we get the full catalog. But yes, so some of the images are small because they're just really hard to find. So did I spend a lot of time trying to find these photos? Yes. Did I spend too much time trying to find these photos? Yes, but I think it's worth it. Cool. Create a function that takes in one number, console log the cube root of that number, and call the function. Function cube it, or I should say cube root it. There we go. Cube root it. I'm going to take in a number. I'm going to call that robot, and then console log the cube root of that number. So let's go ahead and console.log. And how did you all get the cube root? Yeah, we're going to use that math object that we talked about. Remember, we talked last class about that. There's like this built-in math object that comes with all these goodies. And one of them is the CBRT, which is just the cube root. So we can take the cube root of robot. Beautiful. We could have also done math.pal. That I see some folks throwing out something there. You could have also coded this out. And so the cool thing about the cube root, and one of the things I like about the MDN is also I'm putting a lot of spaces in here just to make it a little bit easier to read. I wouldn't normally have these spaces. I just kind of make things a little bit easier to see for folks that are new to using these methods. Yeah. So if we were to console log, oh, sorry, we already console log. We just got to call it. So cube root it. Let's pass in like 9. There we go. Let's save this. Let's go to the browser. Let's refresh. And let's open the inspector. And in the console, we can see the cube root of 9. That's weird. Now, that's cube, not cube root. Where's a lot of decimal places here? There's a lot of decimal places here. How could I maybe not have all the decimal places? I don't want to round it. I just want like maybe to like the 4th decimal place. Yeah, square root of exactly. Square root of 9 is 3. This is a cube root. It's different. Should have probably picked a better number than 9. Yeah, we have this idea of 2 fixed. Let me show you. I can do this here. 2 fixed. 2 fixed. And then I can pass in a number. Let's pass in 4. I'm going to save this. Let's change our number. Let's keep 9. Let's keep 9. I'm going to do 2 fixed 4. And let me refresh again. And now you can see we just have to the 4th decimal place, right? We have until the 4th. And so instead of having the longer chain, we have the ability to. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that's just built into JavaScript, right? This math object that has cool stuff like cube root, this method 2fix, which will help us reduce the number of decimal places. And so when I talked about this idea of researching, right, starting to Google some things that are there'll be some things that we just haven't covered, but are easily Googleable, right? And so getting used to using the MDN to find cube roots, using the MDN to find these little things that are going to keep coming up in the challenges is what I want you to get comfortable with, because on the job, that's what you do. When you have to do the cube root of something, you're not probably gonna sit there and bang out the cube root code. You're probably just gonna figure out like, oh, does JavaScript have a way of doing cube roots, and then use that. One of the things I really do love about the MDN though is MDN cube root. Cube root. Cool. If we look at the MDN, this new layout, it keeps bothering. I think it looks good. I'm just not used to it. I don't like change. The cool thing I like about the cube root is it actually shows you like the code behind it, right? I actually like it shows you the code behind it. Actually, probably put on dark mode. Sorry. There we go. it actually shows you the code behind it. And so if you wanted to not use the built-in code, you could like actually see how they would write it out, which is pretty dope. So I really do like the MDN when they show the actual stuff behind it. And I'm just really glad I don't have to know how to do this. I can just use the cuberoot. Yeah, that's it. Sorry for the flashbang. Yeah, we'll use dark mode on there. It's pretty though. Yeah. A polyfill means that maybe sometimes there might be a browser that doesn't give you access to this cuberoot, and how would you like write code to get around it? And so it shows you the code that you could use. So it's just kind of like, what could you use to fill it in? Like what code could you use to get around not having that object built in? Yeah. Is it better to put console log and alert in the function than like that rather than using return and doing console log later? It's not really. It's just a demonstration. I don't really use these like console logs or alerts that much in my actual coding. It's just so that we can visually see what's happening. I would probably be using return mainly in a lot of my actual code. So you don't have to get kind of worried about like using console logs or alerts. It's just so that we can see what's actually happening a little bit easier. Yeah. Conditionals. Create a function that takes in a month, and if it's a summer month, alert yay. If another month, alert boo. So what are we going to use? What are we going to use here? What are the big four we're going to use here? Function check for summer. Yeah, we can just use some sort of conditional. And we know we're going to take in a month, so let's call our parameter month. Let's have an if, and we're probably going to have an else. Cool. So we can say if month equals, what's the first June, right? If month equals June, what's wrong here? What are some things I want to get into trouble with here? Yeah, warning, Will Robinson. Exactly. This is assignment. This is not comparison. I'd be reassigning month to June no matter what, it'll be true. So that's our comparison. We could also say or, geez, there you go, or month equal July. I'm really struggling with these months. July, or month equal August. There you go, August. Beautiful. And then there's some other things we might run into, right? We might run into something else. Would I consider a switch case? Yeah, I could, but we haven't really covered those together yet. Yeah, what if somebody does it capitalized? We got to make sure that month is lowercase. So let's go ahead and say, I actually want to create like a different variable for it just to make it a little bit more readable. Let's say let month lowercase equals month dot to lower case. Beautiful. And then instead of this being month, this will be month lower case, month lower case, month lower case. Beautiful. Could you make an array of summer months and winter months? You could. Yeah, that could be something you could do. And then there are some methods that are built into arrays, like includes, where you could just see if it, like you could just take the month and see if it's included in your array. We'll get there, folks. We'll get there. We're not there yet, but we'll get there. And that's something you'll see a lot in your coding challenges. Yeah. But there's methods built in with arrays that would enable us to like not have to do the conditional logic. Smart. Don't break my brain. Yeah, we're not there. We're not going to get there yet. So this is supposed to be an alert of yay. And this should be an alert of boo. I might be at the point where I would maybe also have an else if for all the other months, right? If I was to really do this, I would have my if for my summer months. I would have an else if for all the other months, because it says if another month, alert boo. And then I would have an else that says like not a month, right? So I'd have an if for the summer months, an else if for all the other months, and then an else that like an else saying like not a month. So slight semantics here. If we had a little bit more time, that's what I would do. Yeah. Yeah, but you only gave us 4 minutes to do this. Yeah, exactly. So a little bit more time, that's what I would do. Loops. Create a function that takes in a number, console log every number from 1 to that number while skipping multiples of 5. All right, so we want to print from 1 to a number, but if it's a multiple of 5, we don't print that number. We just skip over it. We'll do this and then we'll take our break. Cool. So let's create our function here. We're going to call this skip5 or skip5s. Beautiful. We're going to take in some sort of number. It's going to call it n. And we know that if we're going to go from 1 to some number, what do we need? We're going to go from 1 to some number. What do we need? A loop, exactly. So let's go ahead and just do a for loop for now. We've seen that syntax the most. Let I equal, and since we're starting at 1, we'll set it at 1. While I is less than or equal to n, right? 1 to that number. So while less than or equal to that number, and then I plus plus. And then what we want to do is we want to check. Is the number divisible by 5? Well, is the number not divisible by 5? Well, we can say, is the number divisible by 5? Right? No. Let's say not divisible by 5. So we can say I mod 5 does not. Is this, what is it? Hold on. Console log every number 1 to that number while skipping multiples of 5. So as long as it doesn't equal 1, as long as I mod 5 does not equal 0, right? Then we console log that number. Beautiful. There we go. Right? So what we're saying here is, hey, take whatever the number is, divide it by 5. As long as it is not 0, then print that number to the console. Because let's say this works. So 1 mod 5 would work, 2 mod 5, 3 mod 5, 4 mod 5. 5 mod 5 would give us 0. So since 0 is not equal to 0, this wouldn't be true. We wouldn't print it to the console. So the idea here is that this will always be true and will always print the numbers to the console unless the number we're currently at is divisible by 5. Yeah. And this is using the not. There's maybe some slightly other ways to do it too. This not logic is something that some programmers try to stay away from, but I like to think about it this way for now. We'll see some other stuff when we get to our coding challenges later on. I misread it. I thought we were going from 1 to that number by counting by 5. That's what my brain went to immediately as well. I thought I had to jump by 5. That's why I had to reread it. Beautiful. All right, so we'll go from 1 to the number. As long as that number is not divisible by 5, which would make it a multiple of 5, we print the number to the console. If it's false, we just don't do anything. We just move on to the next number. All right. Let's go ahead and save this, and let's go ahead and take our break. When we come back, we're at the top of the hour. So that's the top of the hour. We always like to make sure we stay healthy. If you're new around here, we get up. If we're able to, we move around, we hydrate. We let our eyes focus on something that's not the screen. And when we come back, a raise, baby. We're going back through it. We're going to have some more fun, different examples, more practice, more hands on keyboard. Let's make a raise make sense. 5 minutes on the clock. Beautiful. All right. See y'all in 5. Yo. Thank you for the hype train. What Linux distro to use? I use a bunch of them. Mainly a Debian user. Sombor Shuffle, yes please. I haven't yet, Mango. Alright folks, come on back, come on back. Let's get into some arrays. What up, Daddy Yankee? Throw those Doritos in chat. Hey, I see you. Alrighty, come on back. Leon, how do we decide what rates to charge? You don't. You figure out what their budget is, and then you ask yourself, what can I get done at that price point? That's it. I love arrays. Me too, Blah. I think arrays are like, I try to explain this when I talk to like other folks about learning to code. Arrays are like one of the first really big stumbling blocks for a lot of folks. It's like the first time that things kind of get, I think, reasonably overwhelming, right? It's just something I see across all my students. So there's a reason why we did it on Tuesday. We pushed it to the point where it was hurting a little bit. And there's a reason why we're going all over it again today with different examples, right? So the arrays, I understand, like I know it. Like I know that for some folks, arrays take a few classes to click. And then for some folks, it's the objects that take a few classes to click. That's okay. We're going to review it right now, and we're going to review it on Sunday. So even if today's not enough, that's all right. Come back on Sunday. We're going to do it again. We're going to do a normal kind of office hours where I answer questions, but we're going to do a lot of practice with arrays too. And Sparks, never too late, never too late. And then the cool thing is, once you find something that's difficult, yeah, somebody was saying, Diablo said this, right? Once you find something that is difficult, the cool thing about being in the flow with Code Wars is that you can search for specific problems. Don't do it yet. Do level 8 fundamentals track, but eventually you could just do array problems. And so we'll eventually have weeks where we just do arrays. We'll have weeks where we just do loops. We'll have weeks where we just do objects, right? And so that idea of using Code Wars not only as like an interview prep tool, but as a learning mechanism is huge. A lot of folks say, hey, like, where can I practice my code? Well, that's what Code Wars is for. Do level 8s and search for array problems. Do level 8s and search for the specific thing that you have trouble with. Yeah. And if you're on Code Wars, the clan is, and it's case sensitive, Octothorpe 100 devs -leonnoel.com/twitch. That is the full clan name. It's funny seeing like all these other small ones because people didn't type it right or plugged in the wrong thing. But if you want to be in the official 100 devs clan, it's the Octothorpe 100 devs -leonnoel.com/twitch. You can do !clan here in chat. Eventually we'll have some cool prizes and some ways to get some cloudy stuff here in chat. So last cohort we did the person with the most growth from 1 month to the next, they got VIP. So we're going to do some fun things like that. We'll pick some random folks that are participating in the clan. We'll pick some folks that did the most. We'll do folks that are the highest ranked, and we'll give out not only like special colors on Discord, but VIP here on Twitch. So if you want to make sure you're in the official clan, because there's perks, folks. There's perks. Alrighty. Arrays. What the heck are arrays? What the heck are arrays? I love perks. Me too. Warmth. They're toasters. Exactly. I'm glad we all get that. Next. Yeah. So I like to think of arrays like I think of toasters. One thing that can hold multiple other things. And we talked about what I thought was a good toaster. We talked about 50 Cent's toaster, and then we talked about Bill Gates' toaster, right? And Bill Gates' toaster, whenever you fill up all the slots, a new slot automatically appears. And so that's kind of what our arrays are. They are one element that is a collection of other things. And so if we kind of break that down a little bit further, An array is technically a data structure. It's a way of storing an ordered collection. When I say ordered collection, what do I mean? What do I mean by ordered collection? Yeah, it comes with indexes. It starts at 0. That's the beautiful thing. Each slot of our toaster has elements in it, but those elements, those slots, we start counting those slots at 0, right? And the beautiful thing about arrays is there are a lot of methods that are built into JavaScript, a lot of functions that come with JavaScript that make working with arrays really fun. It enables us to do some really powerful stuff. We saw how powerful for each could be, but there are so many other methods that we're going to start seeing today. Map, and eventually in a couple weeks we'll see reduce and filter, includes, all these wonderful things that come with arrays that make our lives a lot easier, but we'll get there in good time. There are 2 ways to create arrays. There are the constructor way, which we'll get to next week with objects. And then there is the literal notation, right? Yeah, the clan link is not a link. That's the actual thing you throw into your clan on Code War. So it's not a link to it. It's the thing you plug in. Yeah. So there's the object way, and there is the literal notation way. And so literal notation is just using the square brackets, right? The square brackets. Beautiful. When you declare an array, you can populate it with elements. So here I have 3 elements in the array as I assign it a value. And what you'll notice is that arrays can hold any of the other data types we've talked about so far. They can hold strings, booleans, numbers. Heck, they can even hold other arrays. Bill Gates' toaster, guess what? He got a second toaster and put a toaster in his toaster. Sometimes you're just not doing life right, you know? They got a toaster in the toaster. One day. So we got a zebra, we got a boolean, we got a number, and if we're at Bill Gates' house, we got a toaster inside of our toaster. Now the tricky part is that we start counting the slots on our toaster at 0. Our arrays are 0 indexed. So if I want the first element out of the array, what is its index? The first element, what's its index? Beautiful. What city is at the second index? It was 0, that was correct. Yes, Sydney is at the second index. 0, 1, 2. Sydney is at the second index. What is at the 4th index? Undefined, exactly. There's no 4th index. That's undefined. It doesn't exist. Beautiful. Alrighty. Now this is where I think a lot of folks kind of got tripped up. Not only can we put stuff into arrays, we can get stuff out of an array. And when you see this notation here, this is grabbing the value out of the array. So we're using the array name and the square brackets along with its index. When you do that, you are pulling the value out of the array. So here, I have gone ahead and pulled out zebra. Since zebra is new array at index 0. This is the index 0. So I have pulled out zebra. And since this is inside of a console log, we would see zebra printed to the console. Right? Just like if we had a toaster. Here's our toaster. This is a 3-slot toaster. I don't know why there would be a 3-slot toaster, but there could be. And Here's our 0th index, our first index, and our second index. And inside of the first slot, we got a pizza bagel. Inside the 0th index, we got a pizza bagel. In the first index, we got a piece of bread. And in the second index, we got a toaster strudel. Right? You can tell the difference between a piece of bread and a toaster strudel, right? There we go. So if didn't know Leon was an Attack on Titan animator. Nash, that's funny. So here, if I want it, and this, I'm gonna call this Toasty. This toaster is called Toasty. So if I want it toasty, square brackets 2, what this is going to give me is it's going to grab the toaster strudel for me. This is the same thing as grabbing that toaster strudel. I'm saying go to the 0, 1, 2, the second index, and grab that toaster strudel. This is the same thing as grabbing that toaster strudel. Right? If I want toasty square brackets 0, that's the same thing as coming in and grabbing that pizza bagel. I might as well just erase this and put in pizza bagel. Right? And then if I want toasty square brackets 1, that's the same thing as going in and grabbing this boring piece of bread. And I can just get rid of this and it would just be the piece of bread. Beautiful. Now, here I'm doing the same thing. I'm grabbing the 0th index out of this array, which is the same thing as plopping in zebra. And that's why I would see log to the console zebra. Then here I'm going and grabbing the thing in the first index. But is there anything in that first index, chat? Is there anything in that first index? No. So we get undefined printed to the console. Remember, we're still inside of a console log. We get undefined printed to the console. Then we try and grab the thing out of the second index, which is a Boolean of true. So it's as though true was right here, right? And then the last one, we're grabbing the thing out of the third index, and that's going and grabbing 21. And so that's as though this got crossed out and there was just 21, and we would see 21 printed to the console. So when you see this notation, it enables you to pull stuff out of the array. Now, where a lot of people get tripped up, they maybe realize, oh, that's just pulling something out of the array. It's just like using a variable, right? We can pull stuff out of the array. Where folks get tripped up is that we can also put stuff into the array using that notation. It's the same thing as reassigning a variable. So what we're saying is, hey, find that array, go to this index, and put this inside of it. Put that inside the first index. So let's actually type this out, because I think this tripped up some folks last class. I want to spend a little time on it. All right. So let's go and create an array. Let's call this let cool cars equal, and then we're going to set up some cars. Ow. Gee. I kept hitting the wrong key over and over again. Alrighty, we got our square brackets, and let's do some cool cars. What are some cool cars? Lightning McQueen. Yeah, there we go. All right, we got a 1998 Honda Accord. Beautiful. What's another cool car here? Oh, 2017 Toyota Yaris. Definitely a cool car. And a race car bed. That's awesome. Race car bed. Beautiful. So now if we ask for cool cars, we can see we get this array back of 1998 Honda Accord, a 2017 Toyota Yaris, and a race car bed. If I wanted to actually replace the thing that's not a car, right? The race car bed's a cool car, but it's not a real car. So what I want to do is I want to reassign race car bed to be a cool car. So I'm going to do cool cars, and I'm going to use what index would enable me to reassign race car bed. Yeah, I'm going to use that second index, and we are going to change it equal to 2015 Nissan GTR Midnight Black Edition. Psych. 2015 Hyundai. I don't know how to spell Hyundai. That's embarrassing. 2015 Kia Altima. There we go. Beautiful. Hit enter. And now when we ask for cool cars back, you can see that we get 1998 Honda Accord. We get a 2017 Toyota Yaris, and we get a 2015 Kia Altima. Oh, the engagement's too easy. The engagement's too easy. This is a good one. But here, the point is not only can we use to get stuff out of the array, we can use it to put stuff into the array, right? We can put stuff into the array. And so here I just use that notation and I set it equal to 2015 Kia Altima, and you can see it changed from race car bed to 2015 Kia Altima. Beautiful. Alrighty, let's keep pushing here. We also saw something really interesting, right? We saw something interesting, and that was that when we have an array, we can actually overwrite a whole array by reassigning one array to another. And so here I have an array of cars: Honda, Toyota, Ford, Tesla. And then here I have an array of numbers, 1, 2, and 3. If I set cars equal to nums, well, now cars is holding that 1, 2, 3 array. And when I console log cars, I get 1, 2, 3, right? You can overwrite whole arrays by assigning an array to a different array. So the idea here is that you can not only reassign individual values, but you can reassign the whole array if you want to. What if they're different length? It just doesn't matter. It overrides the whole thing. Yeah. Speaking of length, if you ever want to know how many elements you have in your array, you can do dot length. And when you do dot length, it gives you the total value, the total number of elements in that array. So this is really helpful to figure out how many things are in your array and get that value out. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get some practice. And we've reviewed the basics. Let's get our fingers on the keyboard here a little bit. I want you to open up in Paradise after Paradise. So we have this after Paradise is of course like the after show behind it. So we have this lovely review in Paradise after Paradise. I'm going to open up this HTML and this JavaScript. And if we look, it's just one thing. Create a function that takes in an array. If the first number is less than the last number, alert high. If the first number is greater than the last number, alert by. If they're equal, alert we close in an hour. So this is going to require you to be able to pull stuff out of the array using its index to do a comparison in your conditional. So let's go ahead and put, let's do 4 minutes on this one. 4 minutes on this one. And then we'll go over it together. I agree with Blah. You all can do this. Dig deep. Think it through. Think about how you can grab stuff out. Think about how you set up your conditional. Look at the previous slides. Look at our conditional slides if you need to. 5 minutes, 4 minutes on the clock. Have at it. We'll go over it together. Uzi said Blah has too much faith in me. No, they have just the right amount of faith in you. Got some dunzos. That's okay. On at one is back. Hey, how you doing? I do crispy nugget, but that one required me to put like different stuff, like different licenses on the YouTube videos. I just didn't feel like it. I just never remembered to do it, and just got rid of it because of that. Stream Beats is much easier. You don't have to put a license on the video. Minutes left. Fatima, oh yeah, I do. I like Indian food a lot. Tiger, give us a little bit more time to go through the forms. Leon, why do we start earlier than before? Because in the US we have daylight savings time, which means that our clocks change twice a year. And so the time may be different because we have daylight savings time in the US. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Arizona does it differently, right? Done for the first time. Hey, congrats, Sharon. Don't worry if this one got you. We're going to go over it together. We took in a cat for a while that was named Birani. It's funny that's your favorite. Yeah, we had a cat named that for a while. All right, folks, 30 seconds left. Will the cat dog cam make a return? Yeah, it will eventually. Ivan, not yet, although some folks have been organizing their own in the location channels. A Malaysian dish too. That's cool. I didn't know that. All right, folks, come on back. Come on back. Is a switch better than if else? No, I mean, they just have times that you might use one over another or a preference when I say it's better or worse. Unless you're talking about like really nitpicking, like time complexity and stuff like that. But even then, that's what I think I would really worry about. All right, folks, come on back. Let's go through this together. Alrighty. Create a function that takes in an array. If the first number is less than the last number, alert high. If the first number is greater than the last number, alert by. If they are equal, alert we close in an hour. So before we get into before we get into like the function or the conditional, there's two key things we need to know how to do. We need to be able to get the first value out, and we need to be able to get the last value out of the array. So let's pretend we had an array that was 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. And we're going to call this array let nums equal. There we go. So we have an array of nums equal. How could I get the first value out of this array? Step one, plug in your toaster. Yeah, I could do nums 0. That would give me the first value. And so that would be 10. And if I wanted to get the last value out of the array, what could I do? Last value out of the array. I could do this, right? I could do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I could use the fourth index, and that would give me 50, right? But that wouldn't work if I kept adding new numbers. Like if I added like another number here, like 60, this would be, that 4 would be hard coded, and it wouldn't give me the last number. It would always give me the 50. I need some way of grabbing the last number no matter how long it is. And so the thing we learned last class was nums.length minus 1. So if we actually break this down, nums.length in this case would give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements. Remember, nums.length would give us 6 because there's 6 elements in the array. So that's the same as plugging in 6 there. And then I have to subtract by 1 y. I have to subtract by 1 y. Is there a 6th index here? Yeah, it starts counting at 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I actually went to the 6th index, it's over here, right? It's over on this side. There's nothing there at the 6th index. So I always have to subtract by 1, and that would give me 5, and that would wind up pulling out 60. All right, so we have to do the length minus 1, right? Length minus 1 so that we can get the last element in the array. Remember, length gives you the total number of elements, but we use the index to pull stuff out of the array. You have to find the correct index. So now with that knowledge, let's go ahead and create this function. Function check first and last. And we know we're going to take in an array. I'm just going to call it R, but we call it whatever we want. We could call it duck, unicorn. It doesn't matter, but it's an array, so we're going to call it R for array. And we need to check if the first is less than the last. So we're just going to do a nice conditional here. And let's go ahead and grab the first number. That first number is always going to be square bracket 0. That one's easy. We can always grab the first one. A lot of folks are saying, what about like the methods like pop and stuff like that? We're going to get there later today. Later today, we'll see pop, and we'll be able to use that going forward if we want it. All right. But that would also, we get into like array mutation, but we'll talk about that later. All right. Array 0 would give us the first. And we want to check to see if it's less than the last. So we'll do array equals array.length minus 1. Beautiful. So what we're going to say is if the first number in the array is less than the last number in the array, what do? We alert high. Cool. And then we're going to have an else if, and we're going to say in the else if, we're going to say if the first number is greater than the last number. So we can kind of just repeat this again, grabbing that first number with the 0 index greater than the last. Same trick again, array.length minus 1. But we just switch the arrow here to be greater than. And if that was true, we will alert by. And then if it was not less than or greater than, the only leftover result would be what, chat? If it wasn't less than or greater than, the only leftover result would be what? Yeah, the only thing that'd be left would be for it to be equal. So we can just do an else. We don't have to check anything. We know that it would have to be equal. And so we can just alert, we close in an hour. Beautiful. How are we feeling about that one? Pretty close. You got pretty close. That's good. Pretty good. Hot. All right. Cool. Alrighty, let's keep pushing, folks. Nailed it. Like to hear it. Still a little struggle. That's all right. We'll keep pushing. Alrighty. The thing where we kind of got a little fast and loose last class is when we started to try and iterate through our array. So we tried to like move through the array. And so this is where it can kind of get a little wild, especially when we introduce things like for each. And so a lot of times when we have arrays, we're going to want to be able to pull stuff out of the array one after another. All right. Be able to pull one out after another. And so you got ads? How did you get ads? We ran 3 minutes less than an hour ago. That really annoys me. I'm sorry y'all get ads sometimes. I wish there was a way for me to turn them off entirely. I would pay Twitch money. I wish I could pay Twitch money to not run ads. Like whatever they're making out the ads, I know it can't be that much. Bezos. Cool. All right, I'm just giving folks a second because the ads really get my goat. Alrighty. Yeah, I mean, we run ads so folks don't get the midstream and no pre-rolls, but it still happens. It's weird. Alrighty. We want to be able to move through our array. So I want to be able to grab each element out of the array. And so here is a loop that's going to enable me to do that. And so here I have a normal for loop that we've been setting up. We have our counter called I. We're going to run until we're going to run once for each element in the array. And the reason I know I'm going to run once for each element in the array is because I'm going up to the length of the array. This is the same thing as if I had said 4, because there are 4 elements in this array. So this loop will run 4 times because we're starting off at 0. If we started off at 1, how many times would this loop run? Like if we started this off at 1, how many times would this loop run? Yeah, it would run 3 times and not 4. But since we're starting at 0 and we're going up into the length, that'll run 4 times for us. Beautiful. All right. Now, the very first time this loop runs, what is I? The very first time this loop runs, what is I? I is 0. Exactly. I is 0. So if we ask for best colors 0, that gives us green. So it's as though we plugged in green into this console log and we print out green to the console. Then the counter goes up by 1. And now when this runs, we're doing best colors 1. And that's the same thing as going to the first index and grabbing blue. So it's as though we put blue in here and we wind up console logging blue. The next time this runs, I has gone up by 1 and we're at 2. So we're going to find best colors 0, 1, 2. We're going to grab yellow, and so as we plugged in yellow right here, and so we wind up console logging yellow. Then the count goes up by 1, and so we're plugging in 3, and so it's as though we did 0, 1, 2, and 3, and 3 grabs black. We plug black in, and it's as though we had plugged in the string of black, and that gets logged to the console. Then we add 1 to I, and we're at 4. Is 4 less than 4? No, it's not less than 4. And so since it's not less than 4, we stop and we're done. We're done printing things to the console. Beautiful. What would you use array iterations for? Let's say I wanted to see everyone that showed up today, right? Let's say a month from now, you say, hey, Leon, can you take a look at my code? I want to see if you were in class so I could check the attendance by looking at the tweet. And that tweet has all the folks that liked the tweet. So I can throw all the folks that liked the tweet into an array, and then I could loop through that array and see who was there, right? I can maybe print all the names into a list for me to easily see who was here or not. Exclamation point check-in. So the idea is that arrays are really helpful for keeping track of a lot of stuff. We could use them for attendance. We could use them to add in certain things as we come across them, but it's just a way of keeping track of a lot of elements at one time. Alrighty. We also have this other method, right? This other method that came up with arrays called for each. And what for each does is it's the exact same thing as a for loop. Right? It's the exact same thing as a for loop. It just does a few things every single time it runs. So the beauty of for each, Blah got a good hydrate. Hold on. Blah, when Blah does the hydration, all right, this is the water, we're gonna finish it. There we go. Cheers to you, Blah. Thank you for the hydration. That's some OnlyFans stuff right there. Hey, only 1 million channel points. That's all I gotta say. Alrighty, so for each, right? For each is the same thing as our for loop, right? As our for loop, same thing. For each is going to run once for each element in our array. So how many times will for each run on the best colors array? How many times will for each run on the best colors array? 4 times, because there's 4 elements in the array. The length of the best color arrays is 4. So for each is going to run each time. Now, here's the really important question. Each time for each runs, what does the for each goblin grab? Every single time for each runs, we know it's going to run 4 times, but what does the for each goblin grab every single time it runs? Yes. The for each goblin's going to grab the element, the index, and it's going to take note what array it just stole stuff from. So it's going to grab the element, the index, and it's going to take a note. Oh, I stole that from the best colors array. And so the cool thing is each time for each runs, this goblin can go and grab that stuff. And the goblin is going to pass that stuff into this function here. Every single time for each runs, the goblin runs and grabs the element. The goblin runs and grabs the index, and it writes down, oh, I got it from the best colors array. And so every single time that goblin runs, it's going to pass in the element, it's going to pass in the index, and it's going to even pass in the array that it came from. So right now, what's the bucket the goblin is using to hold the element? Right now, looking at this code, what is the bucket that the goblin is throwing the element into? Yeah, the goblin is throwing the element into the bucket of X. And what's the bucket that the goblin is using to throw the index into? Yeah, it's going to throw it into I. So here we have this idea that the goblin is throwing the element into the bucket of X, and the goblin is throwing the index into the bucket of I. And then the goblin is also trying to throw the array into this function, but is there a bucket for it? No. So the goblin is like throwing up the shot, but it's just an air ball every time. So the first shot, the element falls into X. The second shot, the index falls into I. But then it tries to throw the array into the function, and each time it just poofs, it disappears. Right? There's no bucket for it. Cool. So if we were to let this run, the very first time this for each runs, the goblin's going to grab green and 0. So it's going to throw green into X and 0 into I. And we're going to see printed to the console what? What's going to get printed to the console the very first time? Green. Does anything happen with the index? No, nothing happens with the index because we're not using it inside the function. We're only using the element. All right. The next time for each runs, the code goblin grabs blue and 1. It passes blue into X and 1 into I. We see that we're going to print blue to the console. So we see blue get printed to the console. The next time the code goblin goes and grabs yellow and 2. So we pass in yellow into X and 2 into I, and we wind up printing yellow to the console. Then the last time the goblin runs, it runs around and it grabs black and 3. So it passes black into X and it passes 3 into I, and we wind up printing to the console black. Then we're done. The goblin is tired. It's done a bunch of running. There's no more elements in the array, so the for each stops and the goblin is out of business. Cool. Important Mango said, Leon, can we take a break so I can eat my Chinese food? Absolutely. Let's take a break so Important Mango can eat their Chinese food. When we come back, we're going to practice using our loops with arrays. So let's put 5 minutes on the clock. If you're new around here, we like to be healthy. Please, if you're able, get up, move around, hydrate. Take care of yourself, folks. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And we'll be back in 5 minutes. Walk your goldfishes if you have to. Beautiful. All right, see you in 5, folks. Gonna run some ads. Here, I like mango better. Yeah, it's a good one. Collective nectar, it's actually the full thing. Like it's capitalized, it's the hyphen, it's the link to Twitch, it's the whole thing. Smurfs versus goblins, who's winning? I don't know. I think like, how many Smurfs are there? There's probably way more goblins than Smurfs, right? And goblins are like way bigger. Maybe that's part of the Smurfs' power, is that you can't find them. Exactly. What's a goon to a goblin, though? Nothing. All right, folks, come on back. Let's do this together. We got some work to do. We have the summer games. So let's go ahead and take a look at that together. I'm going to go ahead and close this one and this one, and we're going to open up summer games. One of my, I don't want to say it's one of my favorites, but it was a really good run. Summer games, winter games, I wish they could bring them back. A little bit more challenge-esque for folks that are kind of more real-worldy fans. Yeah. All right. Create a function that takes an array of numbers, multiply each number together, and alert the product. Create a function that takes an array of numbers, multiply each number together, and alert the product. So we're going to need to somehow iterate through the array, grabbing each number and multiplying them together. Let's put a solid 5 dub on this one, and let folks see if they can get it going. This was a Code Wars question. Yeah, I believe this. Yeah, it's probably definitely a Code Wars question. So go ahead, take 5 minutes, see if you can get this working. Just take your time, create the function. If you don't know how to do if you don't know how to do all the pieces, try different pieces. Try creating the function. Try creating a function that takes in an array. Try looping through that array. Look at the past slides. Look at the for each. Look at the for loop in the slides to see if you can piece together how to do it. And then we'll go over it together. Got this, folks. There was a problem with the review in Paradise one. Let's see. That looks good. We can test it though. I think that looks good though. Luan, hi Luan, the link is in the slides at the beginning of the slides for today. Look at all these dunzos. That's wild. Bye next week, Biohazards. The review in Paradise. Let's run it. Let's make sure that it works. This one here. While folks are working, I'll test it, see if it's doing its thing. Yeah, it worked. 1, 2, 3, 4. Skip 5, skip 10, and skip 15. Definitely worked. Oh yeah, we didn't run it, so it was good to test it to make sure. We are on the Review Summer Games project. How many points to be in secret chat? What secret chat? What is your favorite flavor chip? Sour cream and onion hers, which I haven't had since being vegan. You take the sour cream and onion hers chips, you crunch them all, you crumble the bag, get them all nice and tiny, and then just go to town. "30 seconds, folks." Have I caught up on Snowpiercer? No, not yet. I'm kind of like I like to just binge it. I'm gonna wait until the show's done, and then I'm just gonna watch them all. Do you have any advice for anyone struggling with burnout? Take your time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. If you need to take a week off and come back, do it. We'll be here. Catch up crew will be here. Everyone has their own race to run, but we're all on the same roller coaster. We'll all eventually get there. Excuse me. All right, let's come back and take a look at this together. So what we're going to do for this one is create a function that takes in an array of numbers, multiply the numbers together, and alert the product. So let's create our function. Let's call this multi-nums in array. And we know we're taking in an array. And we know eventually we're going to alert a product. So I'm going to say let product equal 1. Why don't I set product equal to 0? I'll be honest, I did that first. When I was creating this, I did it by 0 first because it would just always be 0. So we got to start with 1 or else we'd always wind up with 0. That's how I started this one. All right, now we're going to loop through our array. We can do 2 different kinds of loops. We could do a for each loop, or we could do a regular for loop. Since we saw for each most recently, let's do a for each together. Bruh. So I'm going to say array dot, and then we'll do for each. Right, so that's the actual for each itself, and then we can put in an arrow function into this for each that'll run once for each time that the for each runs. And so I know that I'm going to pull a number out of the array, and so I'm just going to use that number, and what I'm going to do is I am going to times the product by that number. Right, I'm just going to times the product by that number. So the idea is that the goblin is grabbing each number out of the array, right? Is grabbing each number out of the array and then timesing it by the product. Cool. Let's see if this works. And then we have to alert it, right? Let's see. And we're going to call it, let's call multi-num. And let's turn in an array that has 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Actually, let's do 10, 2, and 1. All right, let's do 10, 2, and 3. 10, 2, and 3. I don't like starting off with 1 because sometimes that confuses people. So we'll do 10, 2, and 3. So if this was to work, we would have 10 times 2, which is 20, and 20 times 3. 20 times 3, which should give us 60. So let's see if this works. Let's save it. We have to open this in the browser. Beautiful. We got that alert of 60, so we know that it works. And so if we go back and look, wrong one. If we go back and look, let's talk through what's happening here. So I like setting up my variables because I think it's easier to see. And so here I have my function that's taking in an array. So we know this whole array here is being passed in. So wherever I see R, it's actually the 10, 2, 3 array. Cool. I set up my product at 1 because I know I'm going to be multiplying everything, right? I'm going to see everything into that product, right? And then I have my for each. And so that for each, right, is using this array. So how many times is the for each goblin going to have to run around? How many times is the for each goblin going to have to run and grab stuff out of the array? Yeah, that goblin's going to have to run and grab it 3 times. I talked about this today too. In America, we do this. This doesn't make sense. This is hard to do. It hurts. And then some people like do this. That hurts even more. We can just do that. Why don't we do this? That's 3. It's so easy. That's 3. It's so weird that we don't do that in the States. It blows my mind. The first time somebody showed that to me, I was like, what? Alrighty. We have the 10, 2, and 3 is our array. And so we said the for each goblin's going to run 3 times. Right? Going to run 3 times. I didn't know it was a German thing. That's interesting. All right. 10, 2, and 3 is our array. So the goblin's going to run 3 times. The very first time the goblin runs, it's going to run and grab 10 and 0. The only bucket I have is num. So the only thing that's actually going into this for each is going to be the what? The only thing that's going to actually, the goblin's going to actually be able to use inside this for each is going to be what? The element. Exactly. It's not going to be able to do anything with the with the index or the array because there's no bucket, right? There's no index, there's no bucket for the index, there's no bucket for the array. So the only thing we're grabbing is that element. So the very first time this runs, wherever we see num, it's actually 10. So what this winds up being is product multiplied by 10. And so for folks that haven't seen this syntax before, it's the same thing as saying this. Product equals product times num. So this is the same thing as saying 1 times 10 reassigns product. So product goes from 1 to now being 10. All right. So I like the other syntax. I think the other syntax is a little bit easier to read for me. Asterisk equals num. So all we're doing is whatever product is we're going to keep multiplying the numbers into product. So the very next time the goblin runs, it grabs the 2, and wherever we see num, it's actually 2. So we wind up doing 10 times 2 because product is currently 10 from the last multiplication, and this time when num runs, it is 2. All right. The very last time the goblin runs, it grabs 3, and wherever we see num, it is 3. So we wind up doing 20 times 3, and that means at the end of the day, product winds up being 60. And so we wind up alerting 60. Human, hey, thank you for the 10 months. Oh, sorry, 3 months. Spending all that Bezos's money. I appreciate you. Where did num come from? I made it up. We can call it whatever the heck we want. It's just a bucket. I can call this Bing Bong.
Bing bong.
And then I would just have to call it Bing Bong over here. All right. All Bing Bong is a bucket. All right. All it is a bucket. So the 10 falls into that bucket. The 2 then falls into that bucket. And then the 3 falls into that bucket. Just a bucket. Call whatever you want. This is the arrow syntax. It's a different way of doing functions. It's an arrow function. A special kind of function. It's a way of doing it's a way of doing an anonymous function in line. Don't worry, we'll eventually get to what all that means next week with objects and fun stuff. Cool. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and keep pushing here. Some folks want to see it without using for each. They want to see like the traditional for loop. So let me go ahead and do that. Let me just comment out this line. And we will do it with the traditional for loop as well. So same deal, for, and then I'm going to set up my calendar, let I equal 0 while I is less than array.length. And we're just going to add 1 to I each time it runs. And then we're going to do the same thing inside of here. We're just going to do product equals array and then whatever I is. Right, whatever array I is. And so if we run through this again, this might be a little bit clearer to see, is that we know that we're passing in this array. Wherever we see array, it's actually the 10, 2, 3 array. So down here, what we're doing is we're saying array.length, which is 3, right? So we know this loop will run 3 times. And what we're going to do is the very first time that this runs, array 0 is the 10. The next time this runs, I goes up by 1. Array 1 grabs the 2. The last time this runs, after it goes up by 1, we're grabbing the array 2, which gives us the 3. And so it's the same thing. We just wind up multiplying the numbers in the product. Why do I have product equal 1? I just like to know that I have my product defined, and that's the thing I'm multiplying into. I like seeing that it's set at 1. There might be some shorter hand ways of doing it, but I like it to be visible and that know that that's the product that I'm multiplying into. If it was 0, we would wind up doing 10 times 0, which is 0, 2 times 0, which is 0, and 3 times 0, which is 0. So if we started with 0, the only thing that would ever get alerted is 0. Product is just the variable that we made up. Yeah. Why in some places do things not need to be declared, aka array and num? That's a really good question. So array and num are parameters, right? We can see here that array is a parameter. And so wherever I see array, it's not technically a variable. It is the parameter that we're using. So we don't need to declare it. It gets its value when we pass the argument into that bucket. So array is the parameter everywhere. And then if let me just kind of comment out the for loop again and look at the for each loop specifically. What we see here is that num is yet again a parameter. It is the parameter for this function that we see here. So we don't have to declare it. It's a parameter that we pass a value into. So in this case, we pass 10 into the parameter. We pass 2 into the parameter num and 3 into the parameter of num. So they're parameters, not variables. They don't have to be declared in that same way. Good question. Alrighty, let's keep pushing, folks. Let's keep pushing. Got a little bit more to cover tonight. Don't worry, if this is still hard, if you need to see this again, that's okay. Come back on Sunday. We're going to do a normal office hours, going to answer about an hour of your questions, and then we're going to practice arrays. So come on back on Sunday if you want to see more array practice. If you need to see something like this again, come back. We'll go do something similar to this again. Alrighty. Now, arrays, I said earlier, come with a lot of really cool methods that do a lot of heavy lifting for us. Right? Another 9 hours? No, I don't got another 9 hours in me. That's a couple of times a cohort thing. It'll be a normal, I think, like 3 hours. Sometimes we do like 2 to 3 hours on office hours normally. Cool. Yeah, just imagine people like joining us from the folks joining us from the review, and they're like, wait a minute, it's not 9 hours every Sunday. No, we do like 2 to 3 hours normally. Alrighty, we said earlier today that arrays come with some really good methods, and we've seen some cool ones already. We saw for each, which enables us to loop through arrays. Well, there are some other really cool methods that come with arrays that I want to show you. Alrighty. Here is a variable that I'm assigning an array to. So I have best rappers 2020, and on it we have 6ix9ine, Polo G, and 6ix9ine. And so what we want to do is we want to be able to remove 6ix9ine from this list. Okay. Thank you for the posture check. Ape, thank you for the posture check. Let me get in here. All right, make sure I'm sitting good. All right. There we go. Beautiful. Alrighty. So we're going to pull 6ix9ine off this list. There's something really neat that can happen, and that's that we have these methods built into the array. So since we have this, or since we know this is an array, we can use a method here called shift. And what shift does is it removes the value that's in the front of the array. So in this case, we would shift off 6ix9ine from the array. It actually changes the array. That 6ix9ine on the front of the array gets pulled off the array, and we're left with just 2 elements in the array. And if we didn't store it in a variable, it would just poof, right? It would just poof and disappear. right? It would just poof and disappear. And so in this case, what we've done is we've shifted 6.9 off, but we've also stored it in a variable called removed. So if I asked for removed, you would get 6.9. And if you went ahead and just console logged best wrappers 2020, you would just see Polo G and 6.9 on the right hand side left. So if we can shift off the front, we can also do something called popping. And if you think shift pulls it off the front, what do you think pop does on the other side? Yeah, popped pulls 6.9 off the end as well. So we wind up right now with best wrappers 2020. We have two values in it, Polo G and 6.9. Pop will pull 6.9 off the end, and we stored it in removed again. So if we needed it, we could use it. But if we looked at best wrappers 2020, we're left with just Polo G, right? We shifted 6.9 off the front and we pop 6.9 off the back. And so now we're left with just Polo G. Cool. So if you ever need to pull something off the front of the array, what could you use, chat? If you ever need to pull something off the front of your array, what could you use? Shift. Beautiful. And if you ever wanted to pull something off the end of your array, what could you use? Pop. Nice. Alrighty. Now, we can actually do something pretty cool. Shift pulls something off. Pop pulls something off. We also have unshift, which will put something on the front. So what I have here is best wrappers 2020. But what I have done is I am unshifting Dylon. So I'm putting Dylon onto the front of the best wrappers 2020 array. And so if we were to console log best wrappers 2020, we would now see Dylon and Polo G. So shift pulled off, pop pulled off, unshift, put Dylon on the front. Beautiful. We can also push. So if shift pulls off from the front and unshift puts on in the front, pop pulls off on the back, push puts on the back. So if we look at best wrappers 2020 to start, we have Dylon and Polo G. But then we push Dylon onto the back of the best wrappers 2020 array. And so what we wind up with, if we were to console log best wrappers 2020, we'd wind up with Dylon, Polo G, and Dylon. And so these are all methods, right? These are all methods, right? These are all methods that enable us to interact with arrays. Shift, pull off. Unshift, put on. Pop, pull off. Push, put on. All right. And so right now, if we look at best wrappers 2020, due to our unshifting, shifting, popping, and pushing, we're left with Dylon, Polo G, and Dylon. Beautiful. Now, there's another method that I really like, and it's called map. What map does is it loops through an array, but it creates a new array. So if we have best wrappers 2020, and in it we have Dylon, Polo G, Dylon, and we run map on best wrappers 2020, if we run map on best wrappers 2020, what's going to happen is that map will run 3 times because there are 3 elements in our array. Just like for each would run once for each element, map is going to run once for each element. However, map is pretty interesting because at the end, it spits out a new array. And so what map is going to do here is it's going to take in each of these values, but it doesn't matter what those values are because the only thing that map is going to return is Dylon. So what happens is map runs once for each element. X becomes Dylon, then it becomes Polo G, then it becomes Dylon. But the only thing that this map is spitting is Dylon. So if we were to look at best wrappers of all time, what it is currently holding at this time is Dylon, Dylon, Dylon. And we're close. We have two things we have left to do. If we're trying to figure out the best wrappers of all time, we currently have three values, right? We currently have three values inside of this array. And so what we're going to do is we are going to unshift Dylon onto the front of this array, and we are going to push Dylon onto the back of this array. And then if we were to console log the best wrappers of all time, we would have Dylon, 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 and Dylon. This is peak education, folks. I spit the hot fire. This is it. It's all downhill from here.
Bruh.
If folks don't get it, this is a Chappelle Show joke. So, best rappers of all time are Dylon, 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 and Dylon, of course. So, yes, I devised this whole lecture to to get to Dylon, 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 and Dylon. Alrighty. Let's get some last bit of practice in, and then we will review, and then we'll do a raid. So let's get the last bit of practice in here. Let's go ahead and look at winter games. So I'm going to close all these here, and let's look at review winter games. And here it is. Create a function that takes in an array of numbers, return a new array containing every even number from the original array. You can try it one of two ways. You can try it with map if you want, or if you want a little bit more of a challenge, you can try not using map or filter. Okay. I know this is a jump. For a lot of folks, this is a jump. It's gonna be a hard jump. Give it your best shot. Give it the old 100 devs try. I'm gonna put 5 minutes on the clock, and then we're gonna go over it together. Give it the good old 100 devs try. I know this one's a hard one. It's all right. We're gonna go over it together in 5 minutes. I rip and I rhyme and I rip. The way Dylon spits. It's all right, Span. It's all right. Give it a good try. Even if you don't know how to do all the pieces, get the function on the board. Get a loop on the board, right? You don't have to get the whole win, right? Try as much as you can. If you're really stuck, go back and look at the slides. Try and pull pieces from it. Don't just sit and wait. Give it a try. This is a hard one. We're ending with a hard one here. Don't worry, you can come back on Sunday. We're gonna review. We're gonna do things more. We'll go over it together and then we'll do a lovely raid. What does map do? It moves through each element in the array. Moves through each element in the array, but it creates a new array as it does it. If you're confused on it, MDN has really good articles on all these methods. You need to see push, pop, unshift, shift again. You need to see map. You need to see for each. MDN. So that's okay. These ones are tough. These past two, especially the past two practice problems, are really tough. You don't really have to feel bad if you're not getting these ones. These ones are tough ones for sure. Make sure you do the homework that was the array reading. Make sure you go back and do the course that had arrays in it. Yeah. About 2 minutes left, folks. About a minute left. You got this. Dig deep. Try. We'll go through it together in the end. Alrighty. Dunzo's a fun problem. I know this one's a little hard. Glad you had some fun with it. A lot of the reading covered some of this stuff. There's a couple readings and a couple practices that use all the methods we covered tonight. And then we'll do more practice on Sunday as well. All right, folks, come together. Let's do this one together. Alrighty. So create a function that takes in an array of numbers. Return a new array containing every even number from the original array. And the challenge was to not to use map or filter. So let's see if we can figure this out. Alrighty. Function. And we're going to say only evens. That's a good one. And we're going to take in an array of numbers. So I'm just going to call them nums. Could call it array, could call it robot, doesn't really matter. Just a parameter. And we are going to return a new array containing every even number. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create an array called evens. And I'm just going to create it using literal notation, right? Call it literal notation and create that array. So it's just an empty array right now, but that's where I'm going to store all my even values. Now, what I know I have to do is I have to loop through the nums, like the nums array. So I can just do nums and I can do for each, and that's where I'll start. And I know that I need to take in each of the elements. So I'm going to call it, let's just call it n short for nums, or I think we've been calling it like element or item. Let's just call it n. Beautiful. And so now what we need to do is we need to see if it's even, what do we want to do? If we know that the number is even, what do we want to do? If the number is even, what are we going to do with it? Yeah, we can push it to the array. We just learned that we can put stuff into the array with the push. So let's check to see if it's even. We can say if num, we know how to do even by now, modulus 2 equals 0. So if it's divisible by 2 and equals 0, we know it's even. And what we're going to do is we're going to push that value into the array. So we can do evens dot push n. Okay. And then at the very end, return a new array. So we have to return that new array. So return evens. Okay. Let's see if this works. Let's call it only evens. And let's pass in an array. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so if this works, we would expect to see 2, 4, 6 returned. And we're going to console log this just so we can see it. Because remember, if it returns, it'll just poof into thin air unless we console log it. All right. So I feel good about that. Let's see where we're at. And let's go ahead and open this in the browser. Thought I clicked on it. There we go. Sorry. Open it in the browser. Bachelor games. Let's open up the inspector. Look in the console. And we can see that there is an array, and the array has 2, 4, and 6 in it. So it worked. We can see that we console logged the array, and that array had 2, 4, and 6 in it. So let's go back and take a look. Let's see if we can understand what happened here, but it did work. Can I show map? Come back on Sunday and I'll show you how to do it with map. First try. That's definitely a first try. All right. So let's take a peek. Right now, we're calling the only Evans function. Only Evans. Only evens function. And we're passing in, right? We're passing in this array. So wherever we see nums, right? wherever we see nums, it's an array with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 in it. I go ahead and set up an empty array called evens, and then I loop through my array. And each time it runs, how many times is my for each loop going to run? How many times is the goblin going to go and grab a number? It's going to run 6 times. There are 6 elements in the array, so the goblin's going to run 6 times. The very first time it runs, the goblin goes and grabs the 1. So is 1 divisible by 2? No. Next time the goblin runs, it's 2. So is 2 divisible by 2? That is true. 2 modulus 2 does give me 0. So since that is a true statement, we go ahead and do this line. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this 2 and we're going to push it into that empty array. So now our empty array has 2 sitting inside of it. Then we move on. The goblin goes and grabs 3. It passes in 3. 3 mod 2 is not 0, so that doesn't work. Then the goblin goes and grabs 4. Wherever we see n, it's 4, right? So 4 mod 2, well, that is 0. 2 goes into 4 2 times. There's 0 left over. So this is a true statement. We take 4 and we push it into the evens array. So now that evens array has 2 and 4 inside of it. Then the goblin goes and grabs 5. Wherever we see n, it's actually 5. 2 does not go into 5 evenly, so that's a false statement. We don't do anything. And lastly, the goblin goes and grabs 6. Wherever we see n, it is 6. So we'll do 6 mod 2, right? 6 mod 2, and that is even. 2 goes into 6 3 times. It is even. So since it is true, we do this line. We take 6 and we push 6 into the empty square brackets. So we wind up with 2, 4, and 6 inside that evens array. And then we return that evens array, and it gets returned wherever this sucker was called. And it's as though we put in 2, 4, and 6. Cool. If you want to see it with a for loop, or you want to see it with a map, come on Sunday. I'll do them both on Sunday. Of course, I will always share my code after class, so I'm going to zip all this up. You'll have the code. Play with it. Before Sunday, play with it, right? Play with it. Make it do something different. If I did it with a for each, try doing it with the 4. If I did it with a 4, try doing it with a for each. Play with this a little bit. You gotta, especially if it's not sinking in right now, you gotta get in the muck and play with it. You gotta start playing with the sand to build a castle, right? You gotta start playing with the sand to build a castle. So make sure that you're going in, you're playing with the sand, and that you delete stuff, you redo it, you delete it, you redo it, you delete it, redo it, right? Make sure that you're still playing. That's how you're going to learn the most, is by playing and building. And so come back and play and build with this stuff. You're going to notice that there's a lot more slides here. Tons of stuff. Wink, 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 that we're getting into next week. Lots of new stuff that's going to be really fun and exciting, but please get through the reading this weekend. This reading is really important to make sure that it's not the first time you've seen or heard of objects, right? We're gonna be doing a lot of fun stuff. It gets really fun. Next week is where I think class gets really fun for me, where we start using APIs and other cool things. And so please get the reading done. Please play with the code. Come back on Sunday. And then Tuesday, I have the best announcement ever. The thing I'm the most excited to have ever shared with you all. So please come back on Tuesday. I'm super, super pumped to share that with you all. And I'll see some of you on Sunday. But before we do all that, let's do a raid. You know, we always like to spread some love and positivity. So please give them some follows. Make sure that you hang out for a little while. I'll see you over there. And then I will share everything on Discord. So let's set up the raid. We're going to Mifu-ri. Mifu-ri. Alrighty. I will see you all over there starting up the raid now. Get those sweet, sweet, sweet channel points. Thank you for coming back and pushing your mind with arrays for the second time. I know it's not easy, so kudos to you for putting in the work. Thank you for being here. I'll see you on Sunday, and then I'll see you again on Tuesday for the best announcement I could ever announce. Peace, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Let's raid.